Hi, it's Donna from the library, and welcome back for week 7 of Behind the Book Book Talks, the series in which I talk to you about a book that I'm currently reading or have recently read that I think that you may enjoy reading yourself. And now that we're providing curbside services at the library, you can actually put some of these books on hold and check them out. So I hope you find that as exciting as I do. So this week I'm reading a book by Harlan Coben called The Boy from the Woods. Now, Harlan Coben has written 30 books, and he started with this, Play Dead, which was published originally in 1990. And he has been called a master of suspense. His books are very action-packed thriller type suspense stories, but not real dark and bloody like some of those can tend to be. So I've read a lot of the 30, and most of them are standalones. This was a standalone. But he also has a series that stars Myron Bolitar, and that series started with Deal Breaker, which was actually published back in the 1990s as well. And the Myron Bolitar series, he was a sports agent, Myron Bolitar was, and the books are thrillery, mystery, action suspense, but they're also quite funny. He has some characters in this series that are a lot of fun to read. And there are about 10 books in this series. The most recent one, I think, was just published last year. So if you like a series, I would highly recommend this series if you like the thriller, mystery kind of series with a little bit of humor. But the standalones are amazing too. And he has many that have been made into movies that are on Netflix. The Stranger, Safe, Tell No One. So if you have a Netflix subscription, you can actually kind of search for Harlan Coben, and I'm sure some of his movies will show up there too. I've not seen any of the movies, but the books are good enough, so I'd probably check them out. So this is the book that I'm reading this week, The Boy from the Woods. And The Boy from the Woods, I'm about halfway done maybe a little more. The Boy from the Woods was a boy probably back in the early 80s maybe? Doesn't say. Oh yeah, 1986. They found this boy that was living in the woods, wild, with no parents around. And they weren't really sure who he was or how he got there or why he was there. So that starts the book with the news press release of them finding this boy in the woods. And then you meet the family, the Crimsteins, who lived at the edge of the woods. And they had a 12-year-old son who used to go out in the woods and would be talking to the boy in the woods. And when his parents asked him who he was talking to, he always said nobody. But the two of them formed a friendship that lasted well into adulthood. And when the boy was found, he knew how to read because he had learned that from his friend Matthew. And he's very, very super intelligent. And he ended up being adopted by a family. And this story kind of is in his later years where he is a private investigator. And his friend Danny was the 12-year-old boy that friended him when he was living in the woods, and he had been killed in a car accident. But his wife and his son Matthew are still very much in the picture with the Boy from the Woods life. They call him Wild, with an E, Wild with an E, because he's the wild boy. So Matthew, the teenage son of his best friend, has gone to him and asked for help because a girl from his school, his high school, is missing. And she is a girl who's been horribly bullied her whole life, and just beaten down by the bullies. So when she goes missing, this Matthew is very concerned. So he tells Wild the story, and Wild then goes to his grandmother, who has a televised TV show, and she broadcasts that this girl is missing, and it starts a process. I'm not going to go into the plot of the story, but the whole book, where I am now, there's actually 2 children missing, and it's kind of Wild's search to find these kids. There's a political element of it, a presidential candidate that may have some dirt on him that's going to be revealed during this whole process, and a rich family that their son, who's also the same age as the 2 missing children, may be involved in the whole situation. So it's a very action-packed story. Harlan Coben doesn't resort to using bad language or anything. So while they're thrillers, they're kind of like clean thrillers, but very suspenseful. So I think if you like those sorts of movies, books, you would be well suited to pick up any of his, starting maybe with The Boy from the Woods. So that is it for this week's Behind the Book Book Talks. Like I said, we're doing curbside service at the library Monday through Friday, so you can either give us a call, send us an email, or place a hold in our system, and hopefully you'll want to read some of the books that I've talked to in the previous weeks of Behind the Book Book Talks. So for now, take good care, and I'll see you next week with my next recommendation. Bye-bye now.